And they're going to commence their thunder formation display for us today from behind with a series of formation flypasts. It's all going to get a bit noisy. I'm going to go quiet. So leading the formation, we have our Boeing 757. The captain of that aircraft this morning is Tommy Tuke. Normally he'd have one co-pilot on board with him, but today there are two for display purposes. Flynn Cribb and Dylan Arledge are up there, and rounding off the crew is their air load master, Mike Roberts. So I spoke to them this morning. They were really, as you can see, and so we use this one for what we call strategic transport. So those longer distances where we can fly into more settled areas, sealed runways, and the kind of thing a jet aircraft needs to operate. But we also had them all refitted so they can do cargo transportation as well as casualty evacuation if necessary. Okay, I'll go quiet for a bit just so we can see these aircraft in all their finery with a left to right pass. And I don't know if you feel the same, but they don't actually look that big up there in the sky right now, but I can tell you they are. From personal experience, I was a Hercules pilot, and when I... The Orion to the left, they're going to go off and loiter and adopt a holding pattern while Tommy brings his 757 round and RNZAF. Antarctica, Peru, Laos, India, the Middle East, Europe, everywhere. And I'm going to let the aircraft speak for itself right now. Check this out. Up goes the nose. Normal airliners don't take off like that, thankfully, otherwise we'd all be back in our seats a bit and spill our tea and coffee. Ladies and gents, the 757 number 40 squadron, and they're heading back off now to Auckland, but hopefully we'll see them again tomorrow. Okay, so now I've got this P3K Orion, who's going to be... but the Sunderlands were replaced in 1966. Here we go, right to left, by the P3K Orion. Doors will open on the aircraft. The Orion can carry a variety of weapons, both in those bomb bays, and it can also store them under the wings as well. In the bomb bay, you can put torpedoes and bombs, but actually, for most of our time around the New Zealand Exclusive Economic Zone, we carry two 10-man, so that the wing itself can create more lift. So we trade off that speed for more lift, and we use that extra lift to allow us to fly that much slower. So here comes Hodes bringing in on an approach to landing. Now, he's going to do what's known as an overshoot lift, which is simulated. Discovering what you want to land on is not fit for landing. Or that something has gone wrong, or the air traffic control have ordered you to go around. So that means that you abort that landing approach and you put full power on the engines and go around. And as you do that, you'll see he's taken up the landing gear and is raising those flaps as well. As the aircraft accelerates, we don't need those actions. They've got incredible range and endurance. They can stay on station for hours and hours and hours. They've got an electro-optical camera system, so they can see things really well, and lots of bubbled observations. So yesterday I was talking about cupolas, and we'll talk more about them when the Hercs come around, but the windows on this aircraft aren't flat. They stick out a bit like bubbles or marbles, and that means you can put your head out into it and get a much better view of the sea. So there's Hodes bringing us through on a low and slow pass, and the doors open, give it a big wave. depart now and head back to Auckland. So, ladies and gents, a big thanks to number 5 Squadron from Auckland. Speaking of propellers, here comes my baby. Right to left, the C-130 Hercules. This aircraft is one of 5 of these C-130H models that we have, and we have operated these since 1965. So we pipped the P3K Orion by just 1 year. Number 40 Squadron, again, which also operates the 757 out of Auckland. So as I mentioned, these aircraft are used for tactical stuff, and you can see how Kendall's pulling it around the corner there, that they're very manoeuvrable despite being a big lumbering aircraft. We can throw them around corners, we can get down in the weeds, we can fly down valleys, and we can also get in and chuck them at the ground in short places, in paddocks, on the beach. We've landed them on packed coral, we've landed them on ice in the Antarctic. They're just so versatile that it's no wonder that defence forces around the world have used these aircraft for 60 years.
It's coming back round.
Coming through with another pass, so you'll be able to get a good look at the aircraft and everyone there with cameras. Give them a wave as they go past. The guys will be looking out the window, apart from Kendall, who hopefully will be looking front and centre on his aircraft. So pitching up from this pass, he's going to climb to about 2,000 feet, and then Kendall is going to reposition the aircraft to show us what is known as a 6-into-3 approach. So I've already mentioned Kendall, he's the captain on board today. The co-pilot is Lockie Newbury, and then we've got the Air Warfare Officer and Navigator Juliet Foster, a Flight Engineer Darren Matheson, and 2 Load Masters for the display today, Toby Priestley and Ethan Moran. And there he goes, nose down. So wait for it, wait for it. If you think the view from the crowd looks good, imagine what the view from the flight deck looks like. And if you do them at night, it's even scarier. It's just all ground for a period of time. Okay, so he's pulled that nose up now, and he's dropped the gear and he's dropping the flaps, because he's going to set himself up for a max effort landing. So this is going to prove to you just how short a space. To land, about 4 to take off. For an aircraft of that size, I think that's really impressive. Okay, so we're coming up to the last part of this display now, sadly, because I could watch the Herc all day. He's going to dumbbell around, and then what we're hoping to see is another one of those tactical teardrops. So changing, rolling over to the left there, and repositioning for an approach from the left to the right, I hope. And this one will be another approach, but we're going to do a clean-up in-ground effect. Now what that means is, on that takeoff there, you saw the aircraft get airborne and raise its nose quite quickly to get... Okay, so coming through, this one will be the pass, left to right, and then the teardrop will be after that. So the aircraft's clean at the moment. And he'll pitch up and teardrop. So anyone with a camera out there, you'll get a good view of the underside of the aircraft. The Royal New Zealand Air Force have used these aircraft around the world and continue to do so. We were in the Gulf. Up come the flaps. And pitch up. Ah, this is so beautiful. Okay, right, so positioning for the last part of the display, and then they'll be landing and taxiing down to the left-hand side of the crowd display where the RNZAF tents are.
A little bit of a breeze.
Oh, it's nice.